Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of It's All Well and Good with me, Abbie Nesbitt. You're joining me in the bath this time. This is a place where I spend a lot of time getting ready for things, whether it's going out with my friends, getting ready for work, just having a general shower or a bath. So today's episode is going to be around the beauty industry, beauty standards, beauty consumerism, and how it's actually really weird and it's just a bit too much. I don't know what really made me want to film this in the bath. I think I just want to kind of do different locations around my house. And I just looked at the bath and I was like, absolutely, we could do one in the bath. So I thought I'd dress myself up for the occasion. I've got my towel wrap on, I've got my dressing gown on, I've got pajamas on, but I'm sat in an empty bath, obviously, for obvious safety reasons with all of my electronics around me, because I thought we would just chat from a very, well, it's kind of uncomfortable place, but this is a place that I, like I said, do a lot of my beautifying, so I thought it would be very, very, suitable for today's podcast episode. You probably wonder why I sound a bit croaky. That's because I had my work night out on Friday, and then I had my big Nesbitt reunion night out on the Saturday. So I flew home for 36 hours to see all of my family, all of my Nesbitt family, which was absolutely amazing. Yesterday, I was feeling worse for wear. I mean, you could only imagine what I was like on Sunday. I'm not even going to go into detail about it. But yesterday, I was still feeling worse for wear. And I really wanted to record the episode, but I just thought I'd give myself a day off. And I thought today, I'm feeling a bit better, but my voice isn't still 100%. But I just thought I'd go for it because I just want to stay in routine with this. So bear with me if I sound a bit croaky. But, some people find it sexy. So if you find it sexy, then you're exactly the listener that I want to have on this podcast. And if you don't, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to stick it out, because if you didn't like my accent before, you're definitely not going to like it now. But you should, because Irish accents are actually voted the sexiest accents in the UK. We're just creeping closer and closer to Christmas. It's actually wild. I get off next week from work for Christmas, off for a good time, which is great. Get to go home and then spend New Year's Eve in London with Eddie and his family. I can't wait. Obviously can't wait to see all of my family again in the coming weeks. It's a really special time of year. But with that comes a lot of consumerism, and I'm going to use that as a segue into today's topic. Social media is so riddled with ads at the minute. There's ads everywhere, and everybody is saying, oh my goodness, you need to buy this. Oh my God, you need to have this. This is at a discount price. There's actually people going into Boots and being like, oh my goodness, if I would have known that Boots is selling it for £18 and I could get it for £12 on TikTok Shop, I wouldn't have bought it from Boots. Not a Boots ad, not TikTok Shop ad, obviously. I just find it so draining, and I feel like I'm drowning in ads. What happened to the days of social media where you could go on and you could watch funny videos? You can still get funny videos, but you have to trail through the advertisements. It's just so jarring. It's just so long and it's so boring. Like, if we were to say it back in the day, the only people that were doing really huge, big, I've just realised I just said back in the day, 25. I haven't had that many days, but I've had enough to know that back in the days of social media, it was only the celebrities that were really doing these big brand deals, that were doing these big beauty deals, like Kylie Cosmetics when that first came out. They were like working with all of the big brands, so it felt like something that was quite, out of touch for the average user. But nowadays, everybody is wanting to be a content creator. I mean, hello, I am, or I want to be. No, I hate admitting it, but then I actually can't not admit it because I'm sat here. But, everybody is doing ads these days. There's girlies doing ads for like TikTok Shop clothes, which is great if that's like the forefront of your content creation. But if you think of the amount of people who are doing that across the world, the app is absolutely saturated in ads, and it can be so draining, especially this time of year, to go on to social media and to see all of that all of the time. And it got to a point, especially with, all of these ads, and they were pushing all of these different agendas and these different, you need this, you need that. It got to the point where, it was trendy to do a morning shed. Now, if you don't know what a morning shed is, it is basically where you apply loads of products in the evening. For example, like a wrapping mask or a peel-off mask, you put that on in the evening. It'd be like a collagen mask. You put that on, and then you'd also, put a hair mask in or put hair oil in. Then you would have maybe like a lip stain, so you would put that on overnight. These jaw bands that you could get to make your jaw more sharp, and mouth tape to stop you from breathing weird in your sleep. You could also put on scar tape to stop you from getting wrinkles. All of these are usually applied at the one time overnight to then wake up and shed it off. So, you take your hair out of like maybe a bonnet and you've got hair oil in. You'll wash your hair, then you'll take off the mask. You'll peel off the lip stain. You'll obviously, or if you're wearing a mouth tape, you would take off the mouth tape and then you would unhook the jaw thing. And that is just absolutely wild. Like, can we just take a step back and actually think about that for a second, that you're applying so much that you're probably not even having a really good sleep. And realistically, why was that a thing? Morning sheds. Like, I'll put up some pictures so people can see like what I'm actually talking about. That's what I'm going to do in this episode, because I feel like I'm talking about a lot of things that you might not have seen online on social media. But yeah, so morning sheds, absolutely crazy. And I just find it wild because, to me, predominantly I've seen women doing this. So women are like applying all of these products the night before to then look their best first thing in the morning. So what that's telling me is that there is such a pressure on women to be beautiful that they're using every single hour of the day, including the nighttime, to better their appearance. Dedicating the nighttime where you should be just sleeping and resting to then waking up and being your most beautiful self. It's wild to think that we've come that far. To be fair, like, don't get me wrong, I have obviously put on tan overnight, marinated, woke up, showered, lovely glow. Or I've put in hair oil. Everyone knows, like, everyone that knows me knows that I use hair oil or hair masks overnight. I sleep with a bonnet. Fine. I also apply my like nightly skincare. Like, obviously it's very hard to like not give into these steps, but like there's no way in hell I'm getting a thong looking piece, hooking it onto my ears to get a better jawline. Crazy. Or mouth tape. To me that would be so suffocating to have it around your mouth, because I know I sleep every wrong direction. And it kind of, this point that I was thinking about last night, and I was writing notes about how women are dedicating so much of their time to looking better, is where did this all come from? So where did women's beauty standards actually come from? And it doesn't come from women at all. It comes from men. So the idea that women should be looking their best at all times comes from the male gaze. And you might be thinking, I don't care about the male gaze. I want to make myself look better. Let's have a quick history lesson. So, in 1895, Gillette, and we all know Gillette because Tom Grennan sings that stupid song, like, Gillette, the best a man can get. I hate it. I actually hate it. It's so cringy. So the owner of Gillette back in the day was, he started creating disposable razors that you could just like screw on, screw off. They were metal, which is actually wild. Like, the whole thing was metal. And they thought of a business opportunity to double the market. And the other half of the market that they weren't applying their product to were women. So they started advertising their products to women in ways that they were, like, some of their taglines read, "The underarm must be as smooth as the face." And they made claims that it's more hygienic and it is more attractive to shave underarms. And this is at a point where women's fashion was becoming slightly more revealing. So women were wearing, sleeveless dresses. So their underarm hair would have been on show. It never really was an issue whatsoever, because everyone was on the same boat, because no one was served this product or these product lines. And until they were, it wasn't an insecurity. But because they were then served these lines of saying that it is more hygienic and you're less attractive with longer hair under your armpits, then thus began the first probably, yeah, the first beauty insecurity in women where having long arm hair was unattractive. This then obviously spilled over into shaving legs. Now these days it's very popular to, you know, have your face shaved, or you get those like dermaplaning, is it dermaplaning razors? I have them, and like I take off like the fluff on my face, and to the point where you can get laser hair removal to like completely remove the hair follicles temporarily. I just think I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised that men are at the center point of one of the longest standing beauty standards for women. It's crazy to think that like for over like what is it, like 120 years or over 110 years that this has been like a societal pressure on women to be shaved right down and to be really, really clean, all because men said so. All because men said so. And this kind of brings me on to the point of that there's always a media pressure for women to look youthful as well. So that kind of plays into, you know, the morning shed that I was talking about, all of these heavy skincare products, like always applying something to make yourself look more youthful. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to not look after your appearance, or, you know, not to care for yourself in a way that's going to make your skin better and it be better for longer. That's obviously fine. I don't even have to disclose that. But the fact that there is such a huge pressure on women in the media to always look so youthful, like, it's so draining. It's so draining. I actually might put my sunglasses on again. Is that stupid? But I feel like it might add to the look. So following on from the point I made about the media always having a pressure on women to look their best, let's talk about 2000s TV shows such as What Not to Wear, 10 Years Younger, How to Look Good Naked, and Snog Marry Avoid. Like these shows initially started to create confidences within women. They brought women onto the TV show. They would give them a makeover or cosmetic procedures. They would give them a whole new wardrobe, and throughout this they're then educating the viewers on why this is good, or why you should be doing this, or why this top works with this kind of body type. There was a lot of talk about body types. There was a lot of talk about face shapes and structures and what procedures you should have done to have this kind of face, and blah blah blah. Like, if you've ever watched these TV shows, like, you'll understand that that's how they're constructed. I did used to watch them, and I did used to find them quite entertaining, and that's because the whole premise of the show is for it to be entertaining for the viewer. For example, in Snog Marry Avoid, there was a lot of people who went onto the show who loved to wear like a lot of fake tan, or a lot of eyelashes, or a lot of makeup, or they always had hair extensions, and those individuals would go into this pod, and this pod would basically be like, oh my goodness, you're awful. Oh my goodness, you look so bad. Then it would force the individual to strip down, strip back their makeup, and basically put on a white robe like me and put their hair up like me. And I guess there is a part of this where the individual has went on to this show, but a lot of the people do say that, you know, I've always wanted to do it for my mum because she's always saying this about my appearance, and she's always said about me dressing more natural, so I'm doing it for her to show that I can do it. 9 times out of 10 the people didn't carry that on anyway. So they were always doing it for other people through the pressures of other people in their life. But because this can be a very entertaining and easy watch for the viewers might be taking this in ways that they don't know. Like, they're watching the show, it's all being constructed about how the individual will look better at the end of the show, and the viewer gets to the end of the show and probably thinks, yeah, you know what, they do look better more stripped down, or they do look better without all of that kind of slap, as they used to call it. But this is really impactful because the viewers then thinking, when they see somebody out on the street who might look like the person who was on that show before they had the makeover, is thinking, oh my goodness, like, they need to go on that show. Oh my goodness, they need to dress more plain Jane. Oh my goodness, they need to strip it back. And then there's a word for it, but not stereotypes? Maybe they're applying a stereotype onto those individuals, but maybe they're applying those same views on how women should look, predominantly women. There was many that used to go on the shows, but predominantly women, but we're just talking about women here because I'm a woman. So they would then apply those views onto women, and then women watching the show would also feel like, okay, I need to do that. 9 times out of 10, I've said that loads, 9 times out of 10 the TV shows were all for the male gaze anyway. At the end of Snog, Marry, Avoid, they go out onto the streets and they ask people, you know, would you snog, marry or avoid this person? They ask them before the makeover and after the makeover. So it's all based on how attractive you are to men. So viewers then watching that are thinking, okay, if I want to be more attractive to men or more attractive just to the general public, I need to maybe strip down, or I need to dress like that on TV. Like, that is just an actually like such a crazy show. And I know it was back then and things were different back then. That's fine, and we have come a long way. Like, we do not create shows of a similar standard, or maybe we do and we just haven't realised yet. Like, it's easy to say now, 20 years on from these shows, how wrong they were. There might be shows in the future in 20 years time where we look back and think, oh my goodness, that was awful. I mean, there probably will be. What I'm saying is that the root purpose for a lot of beauty products start with the male gaze, because the insecurities started with the male gaze. So now there's beauty products to fix that, but there's literally a beauty product for absolutely everything. Maybe there's steps in your beauty routine and you're thinking, oh, actually I don't apply this cream for men, I don't do this step for men, I don't, you know, like, I don't apply this acne cream for men, or I don't put my hair in a hair mask for men, I do it for myself. That is so good, because that means that you've decentralized men away from like your insecurities or what you want to do. Fantastic. And you're learning to manage them and better yourself. Like, I think that is such a great thing, because it's something that we all as women, we have to learn that, you know, the choices that we are making are for ourselves, and we shouldn't be making them with men centered in our lives. And maybe after listening to this, it's definitely refreshed my mind, don't get me wrong, but maybe after listening to this, you might look at a step in your routine and think, oh my goodness, I'm just applying that for no real reason. Or you're maybe thinking, I don't actually need to do that. I actually don't see any benefit. I don't see what that's doing for me. I'm just applying for it because I've seen it so many times on TikTok, and I actually don't know what it is I'm applying to my skin in the first place. Let's go back to talking about steps in our routine. Like, there's so many different ads that were being served online, especially, you know, the one that gets me, collagen. Your body actually cannot absorb collagen through its skin barrier. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. So like, any masks that you're getting or any creams that you're applying and it says collagen in the front of it, you're being sold a lie, because your body has to produce collagen from the inside for your skin to be more youthful, or whatever collagen does. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm literally sat in the bath in a robe with sunglasses on. Clearly I'm not a scientist. You know, and anything with collagen that you apply onto your skin is a lie. It was this huge market trend now, and I think people got smarter. People got smarter, and they realized this. So now the big boom is ingesting it and taking your greens and taking your creatine and taking this, that and the other. Fab, great if that's going to help your health, but you don't need to be shoving it down my throat every 2 seconds. I've just opened TikTok just to have a wee scroll. I do find the scar tape to prevent wrinkles quite crazy. To me, I'm like, does that not take away products from people who actually might need them? Like, if it becomes so trendy that it takes them off the shelves, and there's someone out there who has had an operation and they go in and they can't find it, and it's all in the name of wrinkles, things that we genuinely can't stop anyway. I appreciate that this section of the podcast does come across quite negative, but I just think it's really important, you know, like, to take a step back and to look at the beauty industry not from the very forefront and what's always coming next and what's the next thing that you need to have and what's the next popular step in the routine, etc, etc, etc. It's always good to take a step back and realize, you know, why, like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? one of my friends, Anna, she messaged me saying that her skin never looked better but when she was only using water. And now that she's applying like different creams, her skin is obviously reacting different to these creams. That mixed in with life changes and hormones and growing up, it can be really frustrating and really confusing for... Anna said, I think it's very hard these days not to get down in the dumps about your own imperfections and the way that you look. Not only comparing yourselves to other people, but your past self as well. Like I remember a few years ago, I barely did anything and my skin was basically clear. Now I feel like I'm constantly battling with it, trying to make it better, and often get discouraged because I get thoughts like, that's not fair. I used to have clear skin. Why have things changed? But like life happens, hormones happen, changes happen. We are aging whether we like it or not, and that's normal. I keep going through cycles where I get in my head so much. See too many effortlessly perfect people on socials, then have to force myself to put the phone away and touch some grass. And it's not, and it's always such a personal battle in someone's mind, because I'm sure it's not even anything that others notice. But of course, you're seeing your own face every day of your life, and you feel under a microscope and your own worst critic. Amen. She then goes on to say, each to their own, of course, but I'm finding it really tricky to resist the urge to get injections or something along those lines, because even when, say, applying makeup, so many people have fillers and Botox, etc., and everything goes on so smooth, and that's like, and I'm like, why doesn't my face do that? But I just know myself, and I know that if I were to get something, I think I'd struggle to stop, because there's no end line, really. There's no end goal, as you have to maintain and keep getting more. And then it's like, what if I lose my face? Might sound silly, but you know what I mean. And I don't have the celebrity kind of budget anyway, where I can get something high quality but subtle to preserve my features. And I miss seeing more unique features in the media and flawed faces, so to speak. That's a good point. Everybody nowadays is getting different procedures, and I feel like this is actually my next point. Like, we've become quite conditioned by the media to get used to and to almost be desensitized to seeing people who have Botox, filler, whatever it might be, and these people might get them for a good reason. That's completely fine. I'm not disregarding that, but I just feel that because we're always being served these individuals online who have these procedures done, it's like, okay, so we know how to spot it now really, really well. There's people who I know who I wouldn't suspect would even know what filler are, but they might say that an actress doesn't look great because of all the filler they've had, and it shocks me. And I think this does create a staring comparison, to the point where if people are so easy to point it out from individuals that they see online and see in the media, they might look for this around their life. They might look at the people on the bus and think, oh my goodness, they've got way too much filler, or oh my goodness, they need filler. It might actually I feel like it is starting to turn the other way, because we see it all of the time. It can make more natural faces look more obviously natural, which is actually bizarre. Like, that point is just bizarre in itself. Like, it does make more sense. Like, years ago, like, it would have been just like celebrities or like high-end whatever people who would have had these procedures doing, and it was like, oh, that was almost unreachable for, like, quote, the everyday person. So then when it started to filter down and become way more accessible, people nowadays can, you know, point it out so quickly. My relationship with filler and Botox, like, I've had lip filler before. I got my lips done 3 times between I was 19 and 20. It was kind of a weird phase for me. I'm not going to get into it. But I got my lips done. I did feel like my lips were very, very small for my face. I feel like I've got a really big head, and I just felt like my mouth and my lips kind of got lost in that. So I got my lips done, and it has lasted the past 5 years. I don't feel like I need to get them done again, and I'm happy with how they've settled. And I think that shows when you go to someone good. Besides the point, I am thinking more and more about Botox as I'm getting older. I mean, I'm not old. What even is old? I'm 25. But there's sometimes I do look at myself and I'm like, ooh, I could maybe do with a wee bit of Botox up here. You know, maybe I could get my lips done again. Maybe, even though I said that I wouldn't. And I think it's because it's becoming really, really common these days that I'm seeing it quite often, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get that, maybe I'll not. And I get that people get it for their own personal reasons. Like, I'm not kind of beating everyone with the same brush here. I'm just kind of interested, I guess, in the societal change that has happened over the years to make these things become more accepted. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be accepted. I just genuinely do find it interesting. And I just want to talk about it, I guess. There has been moments in the beauty industry that's made me go, what the fuck? For example, sea moss. If you don't know what sea moss is, it's basically, to me, it's like a jar of tadpoles. Like really finely milled tadpoles. Not that you should be milling tadpoles, but like imagine like chia seeds, chia pudding. But it's sea moss, apparently. And people would take a teaspoon of this every day, and it would be really, really good for your skin and your overall health. Bizarre to me, like, I don't even know where sea moss comes from, and why would I ever want to dip my spoon in and take a spoonful of that every day? Like, the texture alone would just throw me off. What does that even taste like? Plastic? Snail mucus skincare. This is a really common thing in Korean skincare. Someone's thought, I'm going to study snail mucus. So that's the stuff that like comes out the back of snails. And I'm going to see if that helps I'm going to study that and put it into skincare. Obviously, it's not as easy as just picking up a snail and rubbing it on your face. Skincare and snail mucus. What? These things should always stay worlds apart. Like, I just can't. Girls, I just can't do that one. I'm sorry. I'm not even sorry. The scar tape one is just crazy. And oh my god, the Skims bush thong. What? So if you don't know, Kim Kardashian has a clothing line called Skims. It originally started with shapewear. Clothing that women might wear underneath dresses to make themselves feel more sculpted. But then they brought out this G-string thong that had false hair attached to the outside of it. Imagine full bush, curly, dark pubic hair. So if I just compile everything that we've spoken about today to then apply it onto this thong. Back in the day, men taught women that it was unhygienic to have long hair, including pubic hair. 120 years later, women are now bringing out G-string thongs with hair attached to it because men taught them that they must be shaved underneath. So now you can actually go out and you can purchase with your own money, so that through feminism you're allowed now to have your own money to buy back the pubic hair that men taught you that you should shave off. I just don't get it. I don't get the bush thong. I will be putting pictures up so you can see what it looks like. It's horrible. So I know that we've spoken about a lot of things, and it does feel like I've debunked a lot of trends. I feel like I've done a good bit of slobbering there about the beauty industry. So I would just like to round off this episode to say that you should never, and it's really hard to not, but you should always try to not internalize the media pressures that are put out onto you to look a certain way. It's absolutely impossible for everybody to look the same way. So if you see someone online and you think, oh my goodness, I would love to look like them, it's completely impossible for you to ever look like that person. If you see someone online that has a body that you would like, your body is not their body and their body is not your body, and there's no way that you can make yourself look like them. You can try, you can do X, Y, and Z, but you should always be happy in the vessel that you're in. Your body does so much for you. Your cheeks smile whenever you laugh, and your eyebrows raise, and your legs carry you from work, they carry you to the kitchen, they carry you up to bed to sleep, they carry you to the gym, they carry you back from the gym, they carry you everywhere. Your arms do so much for you manually. And the one thing that I'm learning to love is, well, it's a very slow process. Sometimes I catch myself being like, oh my goodness, these are getting a bit bad. Or sometimes I'm like, oh, you know what, it shows that I've had a really nice life, is my forehead wrinkles. I'm learning to love them because I'm really adamant that I want to I actually want to see what I look like when I grow older. Like, I want to see how different I look whenever I grow up. I want to see, like, I always used to say to my mum, oh mum, if I ever look like you when I'm a grown woman, like, I would be so happy. And I think there's a part of me that actually does want to see if I do grow up and I look as good as my mum. And that wouldn't be possible if I started pumping my face full of Botox. She's literally one of the strongest human beings I know, and I would absolutely love to look like her. So I'm not going to put this pressure on myself that I need to make all these different changes. I'm just going to let myself grow old in the way that it should. It's going to be hard, it's going to be a journey, and it's going to be difficult in a world that's pumped full of beauty standards. But I think if you take anything away from today's episode, it is that maybe you don't need that sea moss in the morning, and maybe you don't need all of those steps in your beauty routine, because you're actually just kind of great the way that you are. And you should take a step back and just look at yourself and think of all of the things that you do for yourself and how great of an individual you can be without spending loads of money on things that you're not even convinced will help you look better. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up today's episode. I hope you enjoyed joining me from the bath this time. Hopefully the fan hasn't been too whirling, but yeah, this has been really fun. It's been a slightly longer episode than planned. Maybe there'll be a lot of outcuts and it'll only be half an hour. If you enjoyed this episode, please give me a little star rating. The 5-star one's always the best. If you think your friend would enjoy this podcast, be sure to share them with them. And if you have socials, let me know that you're listening. Share it on your story. That would be great. And yeah, and I would just like to say thank you so much for everyone who enjoyed last week's episode. There was a lot of love and a lot of listeners on last week's episode, so it feels like, you know, all my hard work is paying off. Without further ado, I will catch you in next week's episode, where it's going to be a little bit more free ball and just kind of talking about Christmas and what Christmas means to me and what it's like to come home for Christmas, being a girl that lives in England and not in Ireland. But I'll catch you next week.